35 years ago, Zet and I went to Mexico as part of a delegation of artists representing San Antonio. There were like 4 or 5 musicians and painters and photographers and actors. And we went as a delegation to Mexico to share what was then happening in the cutting edge of San Antonio art scene. And then Mexico City sent 20 artists here, and we did an exchange. And got to play lots of concerts with fascinating people in various parts of Mexico, and got to see amazing things, meet amazing people. But the one thing that stayed with me from that trip was an opportunity to stay at the house of a friend on the beach in Zihuatanejo, which at that time was just a sleepy little fishing villages with a couple of 2, 3 small little restaurants. And everything was right up against the beautiful waters there in Ziwa. And there were these 3 little restaurants in a row, right, 10 yards from the water's edge at high tide. And beautiful place to eat. And we're sitting there having our dinner, and we saw this man sweeping the sidewalk in front of the little restaurant cafe. And he was sweeping sand off the sidewalk. But the sidewalk was on the beach. So he would sweep this big sidewalk between these 3 restaurants, and then he'd turn around and start over, because by the time he got finished sweeping this 50 yards of sandy beach, the sand would have blown back over. And we definitely thought this was pretty interesting. Next morning we came and had a late breakfast. There was that man sweeping the sidewalk again. Wow, that's very interesting. Came back for dinner. There was nowhere else to eat in Zihuatanejo besides one of these little cafes. And there was that same man still sweeping sand off the beach. So I went up and asked him, "Sir, how long have you been doing this?" I forget the answer, but it was something like 20 years, 25 years, long time. This is what he does. He sweeps sand off the beach. And as a father picking up after a teenager, as a man who keeps having to repeat tasks over and over in his own spiritual life, as someone who often wonders, what the heck am I doing this again? Didn't I do this last week, last year, the year before that, year before? That sense of, why am I sweeping sand off the beach? And this man's answer was, because it's my job. It's what I do. And he liked this job. He was perfectly content. He was very peaceful. In many ways, I guess it was a meditation for him. This is all he did. Day after day, year after year. No big hurry, because the job was never going to be finished. No complaint, wishing that he had, anything else. This was what he did with this little room. I say that because I want to spend a little time thinking together today about timeline. Let's say this is John Doe, Jane Doe's life, and was born X and died Y, and in between, here is the 1-year birthday, and here is the 18-year birthday, and here they got married, maybe had kids, and had a job, and got old, and then older, and then one day died. That's a life, right? We know this, what a timeline looks like. And in our culture, we have this idea. Can everybody see my wonderful drawing here? In our culture, in the American culture particularly, but the Western Judeo-Christian culture in general, there's a notion that if we work hard and really focus, we'll make progress over this line. So yes, we're still 1, but by the time we're 6, we behave better. By the time we're 9, we're making A's in school. By the time we're in college, we graduate summa cum laude, or at least graduate college, and then we have a happy relationship, or maybe not so happy. Maybe it's not for a while, it goes down a little bit, but we have another relationship, we get happier, and we have kids. Yay, kids! Oh, one of the kids gets real sick. Oh, the kids get better, yeah. But always the idea is we're going up and getting better and going somewhere. That there's the sense that we're going somewhere. And a couple of interesting things about that. First of all, my son, who is 17, about to turn 18, he is of a generation who, for the first time since this concept has been studied, doesn't believe that they're going anywhere, doesn't believe things are going to get better necessarily. things may get worse. These are kids who've grown up with horror movies and post-apocalyptic movies and a kind of music that says, whatever, forget about it. Take care of yourself. Things may not get better, so just get yours. That's what it's all about. And so for the first time, we have a generation of kids this is a broad generalization. This isn't true of all the kids. But in America today, there is a group of young people growing up with the expectation that things aren't going to get better, that it may well all go to hell. The world may blow up. It's very real to them. So what? Well, let's live for today. But that's a fundamental shift in the ethos, in the vibration around a whole generation of kids. Now, is that bad? Is that good? No, it simply is. Social scientists say this is. And, by the way, drug abuse is rampant, and depression is rampant among these kids too. I wonder why. Is that bad? Is it good? No, it just is. But those of us who are older, wiser on the spiritual path, are, I believe, asked to help them and ourselves and our culture in general remember that this was a lie to begin with. There is no better or worse for any of us. That illusion that if you work hard enough, you're going to earn enough that you'll be safe and retire with enough that you can play golf or travel on cruise ships endlessly. Well, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. That's not bad or good either. But it's also not happiness for most people who engage in it. Cruise ships are full of very sad people sailing toward a better place over there. Hawaii, yeah, there's going to be good. Tahiti, over there, yeah. France, yeah, that's where the food will be really good. And we'll really be happy. That's not true. So consider with me another possibility. Consider the possibility that our lives are a gentle spiral going ever upward. And that this spiral, we know, actually has highs and low points too. It's not a smooth thing, but a gentle spiral. And that the spiral is a willingness to keep going round and round the circle, keep sweeping sand off the beach, keep picking up after the kids, keep picking up after ourselves, keep dealing with our addictions and our relationship patterns and our checkbook patterns and whatever other patterns that we think are bad, and see that slowly and gently as we move around and around the spiral, we are raising our consciousness, and we're not going anywhere because there's really no up. Yeah? This isn't better than this. When we see the spiral in this way, when we understand that this is not a one-dimensional or two-dimensional chart, this is a multi-dimensional chart. This is more than three-dimensional. It's not just height and width and depth and time, the four dimensions. It is also past life, possibly. I'm not here to say it is, but it could be future lives. It could be that we're channeling beings from who knows where. It could be that all of the feelings you're having, the joy and the sorrow, the faith and the confusion, the hopes and the fears, maybe they're all just leading us to a place of being ever more at peace with going round and round in circles. And that as we raise in vibration consciousness, as we raise our ability to just be present with whatever is, just the way it is, it just gets easier to go around and around the circle. And there's less and less to hang on to. It's not that you're, quote, making progress. You're just carrying less of this baggage. There's just less There's fewer guitars locked up in the closet. There's fewer needs to blame the ex-partner, the ex-wife, the ex-husband. There's fewer needs to blame it on the boss, on the president, on the economy, on my unhappiness is caused by, no. And as we have less baggage, go around and around the circle and be less and less attached to things, finally we arrive to the place where my good friend Gert-Jan was, the man I wrote about in the newsletter who died peacefully in hospice 2 days after I wrote about him. And he was absolutely ecstatic. He was so happy with his life. And sitting there in hospice, he had nothing left except a few breaths and the love to give to the kids who'd gathered at his bedside. And that's all he needed. That's all he wanted. It was a perfect place for him to be. And at one time, he had a number of guitars. But now he was just lying in bed with a few breaths, but a clear consciousness. He'd refused chemo and radiation. He didn't want anything. He just wanted to die peacefully. And surprise, surprise, he died peacefully, beloved by the hospice workers, with his kids and even his ex-wife, loving them, being at this bedside, at total peace as he breathed his last. Could a billionaire ask for more? Because stop and think about it. No matter how wonderful your life was, even if you graduated summa cum laude from college and used to have $1 million and now you didn't, what really counts is what do you have today in this moment, right? In this moment. Right? What do you have now? It doesn't really matter what was, good or bad. So too, you go up and up the spiral, moment by moment, just willing to go round and round in circles, not needing to make progress, and in releasing the desire to make progress, you make progress. That's the great conundrum. By releasing the need to grasp for joy and to get stuff, you have more joy and more stuff shows up. It shows up. I believe this is the 7th guitar I've been given over the last 40 years, including 2 Martins and a Collings. Right? They show up. And I invite you to just breathe into that with me, because what I'm saying is big and it's no big deal. Because your life is very important, and it really doesn't matter. Finally. I've officiated at a couple of hundred funerals by now. Some very rich and wonderful, powerful people, and some poor people, and ultimately their funerals were exactly the same, and the eulogies lasted 15 minutes, and everybody left saying, we'll never forget. And a couple of years later, they're forgotten. That's the truth of human existence. And what a wonderful moment this is. What a wonderful life this is now. As I lift my body up to spirit into the miracle unfolding here. And the flow of love moves through me. Blessings loud and clear. At least that's my story, but I'm sticking to it.